Hi there, David Taylor on Mr Pelargonium, back with another video for the Pelargonium and Geranium Society. Today I'm going to be talking about the stopping of single flowering pelargoniums for the summer or the summer shows, depending on what you want to do with your plants. So let's just get going. Hi there, well, welcome back to the channel. It's great to see you again. I'm continuing doing these fairly regularly now as we come sort of towards the back end of February. Actually coming towards the end of the winter is very good to say. Filming this on the 20th of February. It's a Tuesday. Very dull, sort of dampish day here in Oxfordshire in southern England. The very, very mild weather is continuing. I would say this has probably been, certainly for the south of England, one of the mildest Februaries I've known for quite a number of years, to be quite honest. I don't think I've had my heater on once this month, maybe once. We had a touch of frost about a week or so ago, but other than that, it's remaining very mild. In terms of plants, pelargoniums, single flowering pelargoniums, you would generally stop at about 16 weeks. Now, this coming Saturday, which would be, I don't know, the 24th, around that way somewhere as a guess, is 17 weeks to show. But I'm actually away on holiday all of next week. So I'm wanting to sort of get on with stopping the single flowering plants that I'm intending to use for show. And that isn't many. I think there's only about 3 of them. There's an angel here. This is one of my own. This is one called Berry Zest, a scented angel of mine that I bred a good number of years ago. I've got my Stat Burn, which I'll wait probably until Friday to do. But I thought I would run through this one with you because it needs a bit of a trim, a little bit of a tidy up from the winter. It's actually come through very well. As I say, it's a scented angel, so it's an angel pelargonium type. Now, a good number of angels do have a bit of a scent to them, but this one I bred specifically from the scent. It was a seedling from Quantop Millennium, which has got a very strong scent. And I was breeding that with a number of dark flowered angels at the time, just to try and get a bloom that was quite dark. And I succeeded very much on this and brought the scent through. And I bred this quite a number of years ago in the early days of my nursery days, in about 2009, around that way somewhere. One of the earliest plants that I actually bred, and I was quite pleased with this one. But it's grown through very well through this winter. It's got a few little dead breaks that I intend to cut off. But one of the things that I do intend to do, I actually, when I've trimmed this back, and we'll go through that together, I actually want to tie this round. Angels do have a bit of a habit of becoming a little bit lax, particularly if you overfeed them. You do have to be a little bit careful with feeding of angel pelargoniums. If you overfeed them, they can become sort of a little bit sort of longer jointed and really sort of open out a little bit. Well, I'm going to try and sort of contain that, for want of better words, by just tying it round after I've trimmed it, just so that it sort of holds it together. I'm also going to be very careful with the feeding of it during the spring, and I will probably go over to quite a high potash feed for this plant quite early, and I'm talking about probably into April, just to keep it compact, sturdy, strong, and really push to get the bloom through at that sort of point for the shows. Now, I realise I'm probably doing this at least a week early, but it gives you an idea so that you have time to view the video. But I'll just have to hope that it's potentially a slightly cooler spring to sort of hold it back a little bit. So, right, what I'm going to do now then, I'm going to get a pair of scissors on this. Now, for angel pelargoniums, it's far easier just to trim back with scissors because there are far too many little branches to use a knife on. It's just far too complicated. What I'm probably going to do is I'll speed through this now. I'm going to just trim it back, just give it a bit of a stop, bit of a shape. Cut out sort of, well, there's a few dead leaves there, but I'll cut out any little dead branches that may have formed during the winter. There's not too many. I have kept this very dry, and that is always something that you need to do with angel pelargoniums during the winter. You need to keep them really quite dry. And the fact that it's been a really damp winter, I'm actually pleased that this is actually done so well, because it's been so damp in this greenhouse. But an exceptionally wet winter. It's one of the prices of paying for it being mild for so long. But it has come with at the expense of being very wet. So I'm going to get on with this now. I'll just do a little bit of trimming. I'll turn it. Nothing too complicated, and I'll speed through that as we go. Very sharp pair of scissors. I'll give them a clean, as is always the case. I'm just about done now. That actually took a lot longer than I was expecting. There was an awful lot of sort of just minor debris, nothing serious at all, just the odd dead stem, lots of sort of dead leaves that have sort of gone on through the middle of the plant during the winter period. And there we are. I've got an old tray. I mean, I started chucking it in the bin there, but I ended up just putting it in the tray so I could see what I was getting. Yeah, quite a bit of debris from this. So that took quite a bit of time. Thankfully, you've sped through it, but it took me probably over half an hour to do that. The only other thing that I need to do, we've got lots of little root breaks coming up here. These are just normal. These are root cuttings. Still a bit early without heat to root anything. So I'm just going to pull them out. Just want to ensure that all of the strength of the plant is going into the main body. A little bit of debris here as well that I've shaken out. So there it is, it's done. I've trimmed back, I've just nipped out, all the tops. There might be the odd one that I will probably find over the next few days as I look at it. But what I intend to do now is, there's another dead leaf that I've missed. I'm going to tie this in now, just to pull this together so that it goes nice and compact and stays as a lovely, as a nice head without flopping out. That's one of the key things I'm going to do. So I'm going to cut out a nice bit of string. I mean, this is quite sort of not a bad coloured string, because you could argue it's very similar to sort of branch colour. Now that I've cut that, it's probably not going to be big enough. Oh, it is just about. So I'm going to position this probably just below a half, so that I'm clasping the bulk of the plant. Just basically trying to encompass some of these lower branches. So I'm probably going a little bit lower than I was originally thinking I may do. And there we are. That was what I was wanting to achieve. Now, what I'm going to do, there's the edge of the tie. It is lower this side, definitely. I'm just going to pull that up a little bit around this side. Just show you what I'm doing. All I'm doing, I've gone a bit lower here. So I'm just going to pull this up a little bit. Now, obviously, as time goes on, what I could potentially do is lift this up a bit, because it'll get a bit tighter if I pull that up. Because I've tied this a little bit lower, actually, it's going to be a bit tighter if I pull it up towards the middle of the plant where it's a little bit bulkier. So, I'm hopeful that that just does the job of sort of holding it in together, and all the new growth will break through on this string and cover it over. That's the idea anyway, and I'm pretty certain that will work. But I'm going to leave that like that in case I ever say a lolloping branch, and I can use that to tie that round. But I think that is exactly where I want that to be. Now, the one thing is there's still quite a bit of bulk on this plant, and I know that this is very dry. So I will just give it maybe a day to settle, and then give it a drink in the next day or two. I wouldn't normally do that to a freshly stopped plant, but because there's still quite a bit of bulk on this, and I know that it is dry, it needs a drink. Now, you could of course do this with a bush plant. If you could imagine a pot, say up to there, you could do exactly the same thing, because if you do sort of give them I like to feed my plants very well, but as I've said, with angels, and similar growing plants, you do need to be careful about overfeeding them. It's very easy to do for angel type pelargoniums, so I'm going to go over to a high potash feed at about, certainly when we're into April, so say just over a month's time, I will go over to high potash, and not make it overly strong either, which is pretty much an exception to the bulk of the plants that I do, and of course what I recommend everybody to do. Angels are a little bit different because they grow and they can get a little bit lollopy, open out. The feeding of them can be just calmed down a little bit, so they're just not quite so strong. But there we go. I think we're just about done with that one. And I hope that's, giving you a little bit of advice of something you could do. And so don't be frightened to just pull that in with a bit of string. And hopefully the growth, because the density of the growth is so strong in angel type plants, I'm sure that this string can get completely covered up by the growth so that you won't see it, which is in a show exactly what you will want to do. Okay, so that's just about it from me today. As I said, I'm away on holiday next week. So it'll be a good couple of weeks now before I do another video. But by then it'll be March and we'll be getting into early spring. So there's something to very much look forward to. So in the meantime, take care and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye bye for now.